Exactly.
Yeah, it took me ages for that.
I'll go through and just try and
It isn't heavy, and it's only if I haven't got any.
We're okay then. Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Councillors, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Just, there's quite a lot on the agenda tonight, so hopefully it will be brief and just speak up per item, a maximum of 2 if I allow it, but okay. So, notes for January. I attended the Blessing of the Seas at Margate, which is organised by the Greek Cypriot community of Thanet. I also went to Faversham for a visit, a sink port with an amazing history. And last Saturday, I also attended a joint committee of the Confederation of the Sink Ports at Hythe on Saturday the 21st. The Confederation decided, because there was only one meeting per year when the new speaker is installed, to have each sink port appoint a town champion who will hold the post for 4 years. This is to promote a joint effort for the Confederation of all 18 ports to link together in marketing, tourism, harbour facilities repairs and skills creation. The town champions will meet 4 times a year via mostly Zoom meetings, and the town champion does not have to be a councillor, but could be someone from the community with a strong interest in the sink ports, maybe a former councillor. One of the meetings of the town champion will attend will be the annual installing of the speaker with the town mayor and the town clerk. The appointment of the town champion will take place in May after the election. So after the election in May, for the next 4-year period, that one person will represent Sandwich. That's if the town council agrees to it, which I think is quite a good idea. Otherwise, we only have the one meeting of the Confederation, don't we? And the church service. So this is to bring us more together. I also think that the museum committee, I think that we need that to help the museum coordinate, especially now the new racking is being installed today. Last Thursday I met Mr Chris Russell of Staple. Chris is president of the UK branch of the Fédération Nationale des Combattants de Belgique. Ruth Renee branch of the association are planning to visit Sandwich soon. This association are installing small peace statues, a small statue with a dove on the top, dove of peace. I think they would like Sandwich to have one, so they would like to come to visit us and talk about it. And I think that it might be best if I ask Chris to come pre-meeting the next council meeting to discuss it, so we can see what exactly is involved. Okay. Anything. Item 1, apologies. We just got 3, haven't we? Oh, Councillor Gray is here now.
We got 2. Councillor Marie was work commitments, and Councillor Fox personal reasons.
Okay. 3, declaration of interest. To receive any declaration of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda. Okay. 4, minutes of the quarterly full council meeting. To approve the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Sandwich Town Council held on Monday the 19th December 2022, and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in this agenda. Attachment 1. Councillor?
I'd just like to check item 32/12/22. We asked for some leaflets and posters for the housing survey. Have they come?
Not yet, no.
Can you? Okay, because it finishes on the 2nd of March, and it's very important, isn't it?
Councillor?
I'd like to move the minutes, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, do a second one for that. A second one. All in favour? Okay. Okay. 5. Minutes of extraordinary council meeting. To approve the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting of Sandwich Town Council held on Wednesday the 30th November 2022, and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not counted elsewhere in this agenda. Attachment 2.
Okay, first of all, could I ask who prepared these minutes?
These minutes?
They're from the 30th of November 22.
Financial, responsible financial.
Yeah, I think the responsible finance officer did.
Okay, that's great, but she wasn't in the meeting, was she? That's okay. It's just that we've got 3 people that spoke here, Mr. Hopper, Mr. Black and Mrs. June Summerhays.
Yeah.
And we haven't written again what they said. It just says SAP 21 for Mr. Hopper. And it doesn't say if he's for it or against it or...
You want to talk about the planning for the...
I don't want to talk about planning.
No,
I just want to talk about the minutes of the planning meeting.
Yeah.
We didn't, again, 3 people spoke.
Yeah.
And we didn't, again, write what they said.
I don't think, unless the people that come in have a written copy, I don't think they do write it down.
Well,
I'm not quite
this
sure.
will be the 3rd time I asked. They're in the meeting, so they
Yeah.
can write it down. Why are they bothering to speak? If we
I
don't-
just said no to councillor. I mean, if the people wish to speak, they come with a written speech, don't they? Very
Yeah.
often they hand that over to the officer, the clerk, and if they don't hand it over, then the clerk doesn't always record it.
Oh, okay, so we need to tell everyone that's going to speak they must hand a written copy, because otherwise it just says,
That's
well,
right.
it says basically nothing, because the responsible finance officer wasn't in the room at the time, was she?
I think it was the CEO, wasn't
If it's the CEO, there's a whole chunk missed off the
Yeah.
end,
Yeah.
which was very important.
it?
It
Okay.
was mine.
Yeah.
Again.
Yours.
Yep. It was about SAP 21. I put forward 2 motions and they were agreed, but it's not on the minutes.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to,
I mean, it's probably too late now anyway.
yeah, it's
But
only,
we were going to write to the...
well, it's all to do with the district development plan, wasn't it?
It was, and we were going to write to, I can't remember who, but someone in the government.
Can't remember.
No, and you can't look at the minutes either to remind yourself, can you? Because they're not here again.
No. No, I think we're just writing an answer to Dover District Council, weren't we?
No, we were going to write to Dover District Council, but then Councillor Friend told us not to write to Dover District Council. It was going straight to the... Where was it going straight?
Yeah, it was in relation to where the submissions go. I think the consensus of the room was that they thought they were responding to Dover District Council, whereas it may have been via Dover District Council, but it was straight to the National Inspectorate.
Yeah.
But that's where the comments were submitted.
Okay.
But so we should have been writing to the Inspectorate. I don't know if they've met yet. So.
I don't know, Councillor.
Well, I don't know, but it's very, very important.
Well, Councillor, when did you get these minutes? Thursday?
Oh, goodness me.
I
Are
mean,
you going to
I know
say to
we're
me
at the
again,
I know you can
before?
ask questions at the full council meeting, but it'd be very nice if you could contact the office, because I mean, we
Is it
haven't got
only
the
me that
answer.
has to contact the office?
But you
and
are,
ask
because
before the
you're querying why the minutes aren't correct.
Well, I thought that's what we were doing.
We are, but the person that wrote the minutes isn't here.
Oh, okay. So if the person that wrote the minutes isn't here, we can't ask about minutes.
Well, we can't at
Okay,
the
I got
moment,
that.
can we?
Thank you. I don't know.
Councillor Sampson.
Yeah, so in the interest of making sure these minutes are accurate, I believe the meeting was recorded. Can we ask the minutes are amended with the public speaking section with a bit more information taken from a recording of the meeting?
Yeah,
Otherwise, propose the minutes are accurate.
yeah, it's a good idea, Councillor Sampson. I think, yeah, Councillor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point that Councillor Sivakaya makes, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
I mean, this is blunt, brief to the point of
yeah,
being meaningless.
yeah.
It's in the same vein as Sally Hayter talked about rubbish. It needs to be just a bit more
Filled out.
descriptive.
Yeah, well, Councillor Carson.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I was just going to say it's just the difficulties at the present time. We've had people that aren't usually minute takers taking
Yeah, that's
the
right.
minutes, so but I'd like to second Councillor Sampson's proposal.
Yeah, you happy with that? So we'll ask if
No.
Well, if
I vote
we,
against it. I'm not happy with it.
you're not happy with Councillor Sampson's recommendation that we check through via the recording?
Oh, I'm happy with that, and I'll be
Yeah.
happy if we write a letter as a council to the government agency, but how will I know if that's done?
Oh, I'll have to find out. Okay. So,
Can we vote then?
you're going to approve the minutes of the extraordinary council of the 30th November to do it.
Don't we have a resolution?
With the recording.
Yeah, to do the recording, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're in favour that we check with the recording and get the minutes corrected, amended. Okay, I think all right. Okay. So you're in favour of this, apart from getting these minutes changed, amended.
I really think it's important what I said.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in favour of the rest of the minutes, but getting them recorded and amended. Okay, do you have a proposal for that we accept the minutes and get them amended?
Propose that.
Yeah. Yes.
Mr Mayor, we just voted.
No, you voted that we have the recording and have the minutes amended.
So what else?
Well, someone jumped up and I did say about that, and they said there was a previous proposal, which is Councillor Sampson's TV. So now we're going back to minutes of the extraordinary meeting. If we have the minutes amended from the recording, which we've agreed to, so we're in favour. Councillor Carter proposed it. Councillor Grace seconded it. I think we're all in favour of that. Okay, thank you. I have to amend the minutes. Item 7, minutes of the Planning Committee. To approve the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Wednesday, 7th December 2022, attachment 4.
Mr Mayor, have we agreed to the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the 16th of January?
Item 6.
Oh, well, jump one. Then while I'm getting, alright, sorry. Item 6, minutes of the extraordinary council meeting. To approve the minutes of the extraordinary ordinary meeting of the Sandwich Town Council held on Monday the 16th of January 2020, and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in this agenda. Councillor Carter.
I propose the minutes and the recommendations therein, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, do you have a second? Oh,
Yeah, so was STC 0123.6. So it's probably worth mentioning I'm in favour of the no rise of council tax. I'd like the reason why I voted against to be included, which is about my belief it's inappropriate to exclude hard-working staff from the cost of living pay increase. However, it also really surprises me to actually have to ask this, but I've been approached by more than one resident about it, and hopefully, Mr Mayor, you can alleviate the public's fears over whether or not you'll be forced to take the tandem bicycle to your events this year.
yeah. Oh. So we're at the planning committee then, aren't we? Attachment 4. Councillor Gray. I think. Are we in favour of this, approving the minutes of the planning committee? That's what we're on yet?
Yeah, propose that the planning minutes are moved, Mr Mayor.
Yeah. Okay.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favour? Thank you. 8. Minutes of the planning committee. Approve the minutes of the planning committee held on Wednesday 11th of January 2023. Attachment 5. You approve it?
I
Propose.
second it or whatever.
You second it? All in favour? Thank you. Item 9. Minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee. To approve the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Thursday the 12th, 2023. Attachment 6.
It should say to approve the minutes of the Heritage and Townscape. The planning
The thing is there that on that, I did put an apology in for that, but apparently it never got recorded, because I was at Faversham. Okay. You in favour to approve of this?
I
Second?
wasn't there, so.
Okay, I think.
Non-proposed.
Even
As president.
I didn't know you had to be in the meeting to propose it.
Well, yeah, well, you don't have the minutes correct, do you?
Well, none of us do. They're voting if we weren't there. So we all vote, don't we?
No,
No.
I haven't been there, I can't say.
Councillors, yeah.
Oh, okay.
just
I've been
abstain.
doing this for 3.5 years,
Oh,
so basically I have to put abstain to anything I
Abstain.
wasn't there.
yeah. Okay. So I think that's all passed, wasn't it? Okay, all in favour? I think so. Yeah, a couple of abstentions. Okay. Item 10. Payment schedules. 1. To receive and note the payments for mid-January £24,332.50p. Those payments which are not supported by a minute reference have been authorised by the Chief Executive as they fall within Officer Delegated Powers of Expenditure. Attachment 7. What to propose it? Right to note it? Yeah. Councillor?
Propose the acceptance of that.
Yeah.
Attachment.
All in favour? Okay. 2. To receive and approve the schedule of payments for January totalling £2,703.14p. Attachment 8. Okay. Got a proposer? Second that?
Propose we
Okay. Okay. All in favour? A couple of 2 against. Okay. Abstain for other 2. Okay. 3. To council to confirm nomination of Councillor Franklin and Councillor Sampson to authorise end of January payment schedules for bank line. Do we have a proposer?
Propose that, Mr Mayor.
Second, so, all in favour that we're Councillor Sampson was. Thank you. Item 11. Public participation. A 15-minute session is set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting in respect of the business on the agenda. Individual representation should not exceed 3 minutes. Written notice of the desire to exercise the right to speak, together with the topic to be addressed, must be given to the Chief Executive Officer prior to 4 o'clock on the Friday preceding the meeting. Do we have some speakers?
Yes, we do. We have 3. June Summerhays.
June Summer. Mrs. Summerhays?
I am greatly concerned at the lack of attendance by councillors at meetings, and in particular committee meetings. The leaderboard for all councillors not attending meetings in the last 7 months is as follows. Councillor Graham, 9 meetings. Councillor Sampson, 8 meetings. Councillor Marie, 8 meetings including tonight. Councillor Friend, 6 meetings. All 4 are Conservatives, which may or may not be relevant. There is a rumour that Councillor Sampson, Graham and Friend do not propose standing at the next local election and aim to do as much damage as possible between now and May by causing disruption and restricting progress. It has also been speculated that Councillor Friend will not stand at the local election but will aim to maintain his seat as a district councillor. Certainly it is noticeable that he attends more regularly when he is wearing his district councillor hat. Perhaps these councillors would care to confirm or deny these things. Why they don't turn up is irrelevant. Most residents just want them to do the job they were elected to do. Is that too much to ask? At least 1 meeting had to be cancelled because 3 Conservatives didn't turn up and it wasn't quorate. That's damaging and indefensible. Councillors don't speak up about this. I've never heard anybody say anything. I'm led to believe that the rules mean they can't do anything about it. So change the rules. Finally, I would like the Conservative councillors to explain their absence and either commit to attending more regularly or resign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Christina Glynn.
Oh, Christine.
Good evening. I'd like to address 2 issues. Firstly, the new bus stand on the corner of Cattle Market, where parked buses obscure the sight line at the junction, thus endangering road users and pedestrians in contravention of the Road Traffic Act 1988 section 22. Further, the widened pavement, together with a stationary bus, causes gridlock in the town when 2 or more lorries are unloading opposite. The loading bay is used by hauliers making deliveries to Market Street and King Street, as well as to businesses in closer proximity. It seems unlikely that a level of coordination can be achieved by the town's businesses to ensure only 1 lorry at a time unloads at Cattle Market. Thus, regular gridlock is to be expected. Residents are also complaining about cars parked opposite the forecourt causing gridlock when a bus stops on the corner. While some cars may be contravening parking regulations, blue badge holders may park for up to 3 hours on double yellow lines. Aside from the obvious dangers caused by restricted visibility at the junction, residents have expressed very real concerns about emergency vehicles being delayed by the frequent gridlocks. I was informed by a DDC councillor that the bus stand decision had been made by a DDC officer using delegated powers. However, residents who complained to DDC received the response that the design for the highway work was undertaken for this council by KCC, and further that it has been the subject of a safety audit to ensure that the design meets highway safety standards. KCC Highways Planning, who had requested that separate approval for alterations to the highway be made a proviso of the planning application, have been unable to locate any such approval being sought or granted, and suggested that DDC may have directly approached the highway manager or the streetworks team instead. So basically, this whole situation is as clear as mud. Given the importance of the road layout to the safety and well-being of residents and visitors and to the prosperity of the town, is it right for the bus stand decision to have been made behind closed doors without prior public consultation? The new design is causing chaos, which is descending towards road rage at times. How will STC respond to this problem? Secondly, I put a request for a temporary bus shelter to the council in December and still await a response. Meanwhile, I have observed nimble-bodied residents taking shelter in Aussies and then racing across the road when their bus appears round the corner. But that cannot be a solution for the less mobile. I realise this issue was caused by DDC and some might look to them for a solution. However, STC are believed to have powers of well-being, and surely elderly bus users who may need to visit the shops or GP in Sandwich or perhaps attend hospital in Canterbury deserve better treatment than at present. Provision of a temporary bus shelter could be no more than opening the double doors to the lobby outside the courtroom during the day, which is when our most vulnerable residents are more likely to travel, or providing a market-style cabin as a shelter that could be moved around the forecourt as needed until the works are completed, after which it may be converted to a tourist information kiosk or sold off. What action, if any, will STC take on this request? Thank you.
Mrs. Carol George.
Mrs. Carol George.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm here as the chair of Sandwich in Bloom and wish to raise the issue of funding. Sandwich in Bloom has been operating now for some 5 years and was established to support local businesses by increasing visitor numbers, enhance the charm and beauty of the historic buildings in our medieval town, and to evoke civic pride and well-being. It was also our aim to encourage local businesses and residents to display their own flowering, hanging baskets or windowsill planters, all of which I believe have been quite successful, accepting that there is so much more that should and can be achieved. We are aware that COVID and lockdown badly affected trade in the town, in fact in the whole country. As such, we believed that it would be immoral to ask local businesses for donations to Sandwich in Bloom. Hence, with little or no income, we could not apply for the match funding stipulated by Sandwich Town Council. You may remember that some 4 years ago we were recipients of the Co-op Communities Fund and therefore have been carefully eking out this money to maintain the status quo with respect to our floral offering in Sandwich. We have also applied for DDC grants and did last year receive a figure of £1,166 from them. There is an income of £2,430 shown in our accounts, and this was an amount awarded to us by DDC via a government fund for regeneration of high streets, and it is not applicable to match funding. We had to identify a specific project for use of this money, and so made the decision to upgrade the area outside the old post office. I have for your reference some copies of our end of year accounts, and you will see from these figures that Sandwich in Bloom spent £2,320 on summer and winter planting on the quay, and a further £639 on the Guildhall hanging baskets, identifying that £3,000 per year is required to cover the basic floral offering in the town. Of course, we would like to do so much more, and at our AGM last Wednesday, members came up with many ideas on local initiatives. For example, a medieval garden alongside the old bus shelter on the quay, maybe a dry garden, and something to commemorate the crowning of King Charles. We did cut back on spending again in 2022, so no Christmas tree trail or contributions to the flowers in No Name Street, the War Memorial in Market Street, and the replenishment of gardens and purchase of hanging baskets at the train station. 2 of our volunteers paid for the purchase of a lawnmower themselves to cut the grass regularly at St Mary's. Clearly this is not an ideal situation. As already stated, councillors will understand that any money we have received from STC has always relied on match funding. However, with little or no income, it has not been possible to make these applications for some time. It is noticeable that many other initiatives in Sandwich, including festivals, do gain donations from the Tollbridge Fund. And while I do not say this with any envy, knowing that they too bring tourist, notoriety and income to the town, I do believe that Sandwich in Bloom serves a similar purpose, and our initiative strives to create this offering throughout the year. It is with this in mind I am making my request for a donation of £3,000, which would, as you can see from the accounts, ensure that we functioned at a basic level for at least another year and enabled us to use some of our current funds to invest in further floral initiatives for the town, all of which are designed to encourage tourism and spend in our local shops, give encouragement to our volunteers that their efforts are appreciated, and ensure local people and tourists enjoy a positive experience when they visit and that they continue to return to our beautiful medieval town. I would be grateful if this request could be added to your agenda at the next appropriate meeting. Thank you for listening, and if you do need any further information, I'm very happy to provide it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's the of the accounts. Thank you.
Item 12. Report from our Dover District Council on matters relating to Sandwich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got a few items. Sandwich Waterways. I think councillors and residents will know that Brewery Sluice is currently undergoing a huge piece of work, which is the latest piece in the big puzzle that is to restore the Sandwich Waterways. When that work's complete, we should be further along in the tendering stage for the Butts Bridge and be able to provide a further update then. Wayfarer's site, after a couple of years, it's now moving forward, and there is an application in at DDC for a change of use from care home to a supported living accommodation for adults with learning difficulties and or autism needs. Obviously that will be discussed at an STC planning committee, so that's moving forward. Voter ID, Dover District Council's engagement team will be holding events in Dover, Deal, Sandwich and Aylsham in April, where help can be given with applications for voter ID, for photographic ID. So hopefully the council will be able to promote that when the date is finally confirmed. Dover District Council has their housing needs survey out at the moment after it was confirmed in November. The survey is open until the 7th of March. On enforcement officers, members will be aware that in previous years we had an agreement and an outside contract with a company that was providing enforcement officers to do third party. That contract came to a close by mutual agreement, and DDC decided they would bring it in-house. After nearly a year of recruitment problems, we've been unable to recruit for those posts. So Cabinet have now decided that they are going to go back to using external contractors, and that should be forthcoming very soon. It will happen very similar way to the last one did. They'll be taking on litter and dog fouling offences only, leaving the existing enforcement team at Dover to concentrate on fly tipping offences and the other environmental crimes that take a lot more investigation. Dover District Council's now got their community routes bus in conjunction with a grant from KCC. I think the 16th of February it will be in Sandwich. I can confirm that date later, but it's fully equipped with Wi-Fi computer systems to help residents with any issues that they might want to come up with. The Dover Beacon project and the Levelling Up Fund, Dover District Council secured £18.1 million to transform the brownfield site on Bench Street in the heart of Dover town centre. Members may know Bench Street site as where the Banksy was. There's a crypt there as well. Yeah, so that's going to be it's going to be an education campus providing training opportunities, creative and digital industries, expanding access and curriculum for local students in a business centre. Green Waste Service, DDC are now moving forward with their plan change to the Green Waste Service. This will be moved away from the green waste sacks towards green waste wheeled bins. There is funding available to ensure that all current subscribers will be able to take up an initial bin for free. So that will be, more information will be coming out about that over the next few months. There's a new housing register system that's going to go live in July 2023. It's going to be a new look, more streamlined and hopefully easier to navigate whilst providing the same service. We've recently built 16 studio flats to relieve the budgetary pressures on interim housing in Dover, former garage site, so that's moving forward. We recently won some awards in the Tourism Awards and the Keep Britain Tidy. We've been nominated for awards. It's all very positive. We were recognised, formally presented with the Federation of Small Businesses Local Government Award for the best programme of business support in the South East, which was a pilot programme where we saw Dover District Council retain 100% of the business rates and use the income to introduce a business grant scheme to support small businesses. A number of businesses in Sandwich did take up that offer. Kent Library have launched a network of business and IP centres transforming the way ideas grow into successful businesses. They'll be holding drop-in sessions over the coming year and they'll be advertised directly by the library, Dover libraries. Guildhall, the next part of the work on the Guildhall forecourt is due to commence on the 6th of February. The contractor has already been in contact with most of the surrounding businesses but will continue. There has been some correspondence with DDC regarding the configuration of the bus stops outlined by the speaker earlier. Fellowship Walk application with the land behind Whitefriars Meadow has been refused planning permission. It's on the agenda later today with Councillor Carter actually has got a motion on there for use of the land. Car parks in Sandwich. A couple of weeks ago I was unable to make the rearranged Heritage and Townscape meeting, so I had a pre-booked meeting about expanding the car park provision in Sandwich. I had a positive meeting with the Sandwich Town Cricket Club and now DDC are actively exploring the possibility of expanding the Gaze and Salts car park. Whilst other options are still preferred, for example the Highways Depot land over the Tollbridge, these options are still some way off being realised and the expansion of Gaze and Salts is the most realistic opportunity we have in the short term to alleviate parking pressures in Sandwich. Archers Low Farm, we had the hearing of that at the beginning of this month. It was a 2-day hearing with the National Inspectorate. The outcome of this case is now in his hands and we wait with bated breath for the next couple of weeks for an outcome. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your report, Councillor.
Mr Mayor, could I ask Councillor Friend a question, please?
No.
I'm allowed to now.
Well, I don't know. I think it's up to the Mayor's discretion.
Oh,
As long as it
Okay.
relates to
I
the,
just wanted to know,
we just had.
that's great that you've put 6 halfway houses, halfway studio flats, but could you, how many? 16? 16, that's brilliant. As social housing person, could you tell me how many houses or flats have been built, council houses or social houses, in the last 3 or 4 years?
I don't think that's
It's
part of the
quite
report.
important. It's very important, actually.
Yeah, but
We
I don't-
desperately need
I
social
don't think it was
housing.
on the report though, councillor, was it?
It was.
Yeah.
The interim housing was on the report.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number. I can come back, but it's in the region of about 50.
50.
50 new houses.
Yeah.
None in Sandwich. None in Sandwich.
The closest ones to Sandwich are being built in Foxborough Close, just
Yeah.
in Windsor.
Yeah.
Thank you. So none in Sandwich again.
No, we did have this question ages ago when
Yeah,
we
it
did
was me.
Willowbank.
I asked
No,
it
can
and
I
you
just
said
can
there
I just
were.
can I just finish? We did have this with Willowbank because when you had a development, you had to provide a certain percentage of housing. Willowbanks, as a lander, was so expensive that they was going to put their houses in deal, and I think that's what happened. The price of land of Sandwich is so expensive that I don't
No,
think.
but it doesn't help.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I may have misunderstood the question. I thought Councillor Sivrakaya was referring to houses built by Dover District
Yeah.
Council for
Yes,
Dover District Council
yeah.
housing tenants, not affordable housing.
I'm not talking about affordable housing
Okay.
at all. I'm talking about social housing. We never get any in Sandwich.
Yes, I'm just a bit puzzled as to why Councillor Friend thinks the Heritage and Townscape committee meeting had been rearranged, because it hadn't. And in the light of Mrs. Summerhayes' remarks about attendance, I just thought it was rather important to point out that it was a set date.
Yeah, I mean, I can forward the email off to Councillor Ungerson, but it was pre-arranged to be the same evening as the planning meeting, and then was subsequently
I see,
moved.
yes,
So,
that's true.
just to correct the record, the Heritage and Townscape meeting was moved.
Was changed. Yeah, I couldn't make it either because I was going to go the previous day as well. Okay. Item 13, report from Kent County Councillor. Councillor Chandler's present tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I can see a couple of new faces. So my name is Sue Chandler and I'm the Kent County Council. I'm also a District Councillor, but this is a report from Kent County Council. I can forward the written report and I'll abbreviate a little bit. So I'm sure that councillors will join me in welcoming the news that 45 million bid to the government's Levelling Up Fund to improve traffic flow through the Port of Dover has been successful. The enhancements, which will include additional border control points and a new exit route, will not only have a positive impact on Dover and the surrounding area, but on Kent and its economy as a whole, and is a real attempt to deal with the disruption and difficulties that we all know only too well when problems arise at the border. So it addresses various issues in and around the Port of Dover and should improve the fluidity of traffic with security checks more logically arranged. So that is very, very good news. Staying with highways, councillors may have seen the media coverage recently of the challenges that County Council is facing with the current deterioration of the roads in the aftermath of a series of more extreme weather events. So the potholes, the number of potholes that we have currently are the result of a combination of the extremely dry period in the summer, which caused shrinkage, particularly of the clay soils, which created a lot of leaks in the water mains, as we know, some of them very serious, followed by very heavy rainfall, followed by the period of cold weather, freezing temperatures in the beginning of December, followed by yet more rain. So the combination of all that does have an impact on our highways, so that can be demonstrated by the fact that during the period from 11th of December to the present date, there have been over 9,000 reports of potholes, and during the same period in 21-22, The figure was 2018, and if you'll recall, the weather conditions were extremely different in those years. So it demonstrates just the issues that we have. What's important is that all available resources are being devoted to the execution of repairs, including KCC term maintenance contractors Amy, other contractors as necessary, and members of the operational teams. So whenever possible, the right to repairs are executed first time. But occasionally, the situation demands a temporary repair to avoid accidents or vehicle damage until the weather allows a more permanent repair. So there is often criticism that we will repair some potholes in wet weather or when the weather is not ideal. If a pothole is of a certain dimension, and believe me, that is how it works, we have to effect a temporary repair in order to avoid those incidents, and that's why you may see potholes being repaired in less than ideal conditions. But everything is being done to ameliorate that situation. Again, if you've been watching the media, you will also be aware that the County Council is actually in the vanguard of research. We have a number of pilots which are looking at different methods and different materials in order to repair the highways more effectively and economically, and that's an ongoing thing. So if you or someone you know is struggling to pay their energy bills, there might be help available from the Household Support Fund through Kent County Council. Eligible Kent residents will receive a one-off £100 voucher to use towards their household gas and electric costs. So the applications are open now until the end of March, or when the budget pot has all been distributed. So it's on a first come, first served basis, and it's one voucher per qualifying household. So this scheme is aimed at people who are impacted by the cost of living crisis and in need, but are not currently eligible, and therefore not receiving other government support released over recent months. To find out more, including eligibility, there are details on the Kent County Council website, and you can look those up. Or, of course, if you need to, do give me a call, and I can help there. So it'll be the applicants will receive it in the form of a £100 post office cash out voucher by text or email, or by post if that's necessary, and it would be valid for 21 days from the date of issue. So the Household Support Fund is provided by the UK Government, but it's administered through Kent County Council. And finally, the County Council have a number of consultations that are live at the moment. The Community Services Consultation is considering a different way of utilising our buildings and the delivery of community services, including the development of family hubs, which bring together both KCC Children's and Family Services and those of partner organisations, including the NHS and the voluntary sector, and includes both outreach services and a digital offer. So the important thing about that consultation is that there will be a change, perhaps potentially a change to the buildings, but services will be delivered in a very different way, and outreach will be delivered from community buildings and alternative venues to better reach the communities that actually need those services. So more of the funding will go on service delivery and not on maintaining or renting or running expensive buildings, which seems a very sensible way to go forward. There are also consultations on KCC's home to school transport policy and the proposed changes to adult social care charges. So those consultations you can find on the kent.gov website under the Let's Talk banner, and if you have any issues finding them, do let me know and I can help in that respect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Item 14. Updates from councillors. To receive and note verbal updates from councillors on meetings that they have attended as nominated representatives of the council. MB verbal updates can only be noted. Councillor Sampson.
Oh, excuse me, sorry. So Sandwich Community Lights. I was hoping to receive an update from the current chairman, but sadly he's stuck at work. But one thing that we have done in the past month is we had like a post-event clear up what worked well, what needs to be improved meeting. And yeah, we've identified a number of things going forward. And while I was hoping to update on a little bit more, the AGM will be called hopefully very soon, which of course everybody's encouraged to attend, all members of the public. And hopefully I'll have a better update for you next month.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and sorry, they're desperate for volunteers, because we also put up the bunting around summer and springtime as well. So any volunteers, please come forward or contact them via their Facebook page.
Okay. Can I ask you, as a representative for the United Charities, could you please give us some diary dates? Because I do like going to the carol service, and I know they have some other fundraisers there, apart from the St Bart's Bun Run, and I do, enjoy going up there. Now, by the time I found out about the Remembrance Service, it was too late, and I just missed it. So if you could just provide us with some diary dates, so when the only other thing, I'm getting it via Facebook. It's not, if you could, Councillor, please.
Happy to. I'll forward after the meeting.
Lovely, thanks a lot. Thank you. Right. Councillor Friend. Okay. Item 15, finances. 1. To receive and note the Sandwich Town Council petty cash statement as at 30th November 2022, attachment 9B.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Seconder?
Seconded.
Yeah, all in favour? Okay, thank you. 2. To receive and note the Sandwich Town Council statement of account as at 31st December, income, expenditure, budget and petty cash. Attachment 10A, 10B and 10C.
I'd like to move that, Mr Mayor, all
Okay.
3 items on the block.
Lovely, thank you. You've got a seconder for that? All in favour? Yeah. 2 abstentions, I think. 2 abstentions, yeah. Councillor Silvercroft and Councillor Helen. Okay. Item 16, financial regulations. To receive and approve financial regulation and amendment to Appendix 1, stating powers of financial delegation, attachments 11A and 11B. You say about this, didn't they? Yeah, this is because at the moment it's only the CEO and the caretaker that can actually carry out and be responsible for finances. So as they're both not present at the moment, we need an extra person. So like the PA assistant to the CEO and the caretaker to have delegated authority, so that if we need the plumber, we can get a plumber in, or the electrics are playing up, we can get an electrician in. Councillor.
So, yeah, I was just going to say, Mr Mayor, we've had an experience of that recently, haven't we, where unfortunately the caretaker John wasn't able to get the electrician in.
Yes, right.
When I believe the circuit breakers kept tripping. So I believe this is necessary. It's up to a set limit, so it can be audited and checked up on. And I think it's very important that the other example was where one of the toilets, I believe, got blocked or damaged, and we needed the plumber in quite quickly. So I'm very happy to propose that these delegated duties are passed across to subordinates during the absence of the CEO and the town sergeant.
I fully support the spirit in which this has been brought before us, and I support what Councillor Carter has just said. The one thing I did notice reading through the financial regulations is that the language hasn't been changed to take account of recent changes in the way in which the council operates, so that there's still reference to an HR councillor when there should be reference to a personnel subgroup, and that should be changed. And also I would urge the council not to use the term chairman, but to use the much more conventional term chair, which is gender neutral, and is the convention now for reference to anybody who heads up a committee or a council or whatever? And the word chairman occurs frequently in the current financial regulations, and I suggest that that is changed.
Yeah, did you read all the highlighted on 11B? So you're happy with that? And there's it was about contractors as well, wasn't it? About the Watkins contract. What is that? Yeah, okay. So if you're all happy with that then, okay, you've got a proposal? Oh,
Could I ask to propose it with Councillor Ungerson's changes?
what chairs?
And the, not the human resources.
But not the HR council.
Yeah.
Thank
Just very.
I'm happy as proposer to accept those amendments, Mr Mayor.
Maybe this is me being ever so slightly pedantic, but could we perhaps have chairperson or deputy chairperson? Otherwise, people might think we're talking about furniture.
This is such a hoary debate.
Okay, so we've had a proposal and a second, all in favour though? Okay, thank you. Item 7, oh, that was related to said. Excuse us a minute. It was to do with the central heating contract, wasn't it? I think the contract's run out for the plumbers, and we've still got issues with the plumbing. So if we've got this delegated powers to renew the contract with Watkins, I think that's.
Yeah, if it's a contract, it really needs to come to the finance committee, really.
Well, it's a renewal.
Yeah.
It's a renewal of the existing. It's the people that put the boiler in. We're sort of like snagging.
Oh, if it's snagging, if it's existing, is it?
Yeah, I think it's on problems with with heating. But it's just got to renew the. You're happy?
Yeah, happy to accept that if it's an existing contract, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, if it's an ongoing
If
thing.
it's just a new contract, then
No,
obviously
it's
it
not,
needs to
no.
go through the procedures.
Yeah, no. Do you have a second of that? Do we carry on with the? Okay, thank you. Item 17. Georgina Maddox's request to receive and consider a report from the responsible finance officer regarding information related to the Maddox estate. 13. We've had a note from the stockbroker about the shares, wasn't it? And the stockbroker recommends that we change the shares from paper shares to electronic shares, and he would do that free of charge. So, that's it. Councillor Sampson.
Move the recommendations.
Yeah, I'd like to second that and to agree the change the shares to electronic ones, because that will reduce the administration costs on the shares.
Yeah. Okay, all in favour of that? That's that. Thank you. Item 18, Changing Places project. To receive an update on the Changing Places project with respect to the public convenience of the quay. Oh, but the solicitors.
Yeah.
Oh yes, sorry about that. There was an extra bit about Councillor Gray, wasn't it, on the previous one, Councillor Gray?
It's in recommendations, I believe.
Yeah, recommendation about the solicitors of Girlings.
We've agreed the
We've agreed to the recommendation.
We've agreed that
Yeah.
in the resolution.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No, it's just that we're confirming. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Right. The Changing Places project. This is the toilet, isn't it? Councillor Carter.
Oh, yeah, we're being asked here, Mr Mayor, whether we wish to progress this project, the feasibility of the project, and who would be appointed to oversee the project. So I don't know if councillors remember, this was something that we almost thought we'd lost the money.
Yeah.
So this is £50,000 of grant money. So, and we fought back and we said, oh, could we still do it? And luckily we got sort of second bite of the cherry and we've been allocated the money. So to actually say not to go forward with this would be astoundingly sort of not a good idea. So, so I'd like to say that we would progress with the project. I think the feasibility of it is possible. I think it's something that we can undertake. For instance, we refurbished the toilets on the quay before when they're in a dreadful condition, and under Councillor Joe Trussler, we refurbished those and had them rebuilt. So it's not something this council can't undertake. We're a very capable council, which is really good. And so I think the feasibility is okay. And as to overseeing the project, I wouldn't want to put any more pressure onto any of the existing Guildhall staff, but I was thinking of making a proposal this evening of whether or not our acting town clerk may be able to take on these duties if possible. So that would be my proposal, but if anybody else has got a proposal to bring somebody else in without great expense, then I'd be prepared to hear that.
Thank you, Councillor. I did have a note from the finance officer, and she's not sure whether this 50,000 has to be match funded at all. Whether it's it's just a £50,000 grant.
Mention of that before.
So it's the £50,000 to do the work.
There was no mention of match funding.
No,
I was just going to say, I was at that meeting and I'm positive we had to match fund the money, which is why we said it was too much.
Yeah, so well, that's what the finance officer.
I mean, we need to check because if it isn't match funding, it'll be fantastic. But
she says, can we ask for more information?
Yeah, well,
Could I say to the next meeting?
We ought to undertake that before we go any further then, Mr Mayor. I wasn't aware of that obligation.
So defer it to the next meeting to get more information.
I'll defer it to the next meeting.
Yeah, have it, Councillor.
So maybe I'm skipping ahead a little bit because we do have a little bit of talk about the key conveniences a bit later.
Yeah.
But I popped into the Guildhall offices to sort of talk about this in more detail to try and understand it. Obviously, while the grant of £50,000 is brilliant and it would enable a specialist location for disabled access in the middle of the town, just by the quay, which is an area constantly used, the part of the building it would be taking up is this mostly the central section, which is currently unused at the moment. So this is where the old small office was, and cleaning supplies, and the men's and women's toilets. Because currently obviously you've got the showers and a toilet on one side and a disabled toilet on the other side with the contactless card. So yeah, whether council goes ahead with this or not, obviously that then becomes a key factor in our thinking for what we're going to try and do with the key conveniences. The only thing I'd be slightly cautious about is we've obviously already delayed this quite a bit. How much longer are we able to delay it? Obviously there's questions we need answered. But yeah, and then of course, say we get the £50,000, there will be an injection of cash required on our side for, I presume, contractors to do things that aren't covered by the grant. I believe there is a company that was being looked at which specialises with this grant and offer a bronze, silver, gold level different things. I can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head. But yeah, so if we go ahead with this or not, this is obviously going to feature heavily in what we're going to have to do with key conveniences going forward with heritage and townscape. So just to keep that in mind.
I'll amend my proposal, Mr Mayor, to deferring this until we're fully aware of the financial implications.
Yeah. Okay. You're in favour of that then? I think so. Okay. So, item 19, Councillor Sampson.
May I?
You may.
Yeah, so I believe this is covered well enough in my report that I submitted to council, but to summarise, council have already agreed to the proposal last year I put forward about the repairs and a budget of £2,000. Excuse me. Sadly, we need a larger budget. We've narrowed it down to two options that represent the best value for money with the best skills to look after a vital part of Sandwich's history. I don't know why exactly they are blacked out in my report. I presume commercial confidentiality?
I don't know.
But,
yeah.
Okay. But yeah, essentially that was a bit of information about each one. I'm not asking you for which you prefer anyway, so I guess that doesn't necessarily make it super relevant. Just in case one, due to extenuating circumstances, isn't able to do it, so we have to ask the other one. And both seem to be very well qualified. What was it? Yeah, asking for an increase of £5,000 to the budget to cover the repairs. However, I'll say that with a caveat. Of course, hopefully, like last time, about a decade ago, we may be able to secure 50% funding from the War Memorials Trust. However, this has to take place later, once we have the contractor. I've asked for questions when I submit the report to council when everybody saw it last Thursday. I haven't received any, so formally propose the motion in my report.
Oh, okay.
Happy to answer questions, of course.
As I understand it, the War Memorial Trust inspected the War Memorial, I think in 2018, and put it in the good category. So that would rather indicate that they probably wouldn't support any application. So I think the council has to take that into account. The other issue that I have, I mean, I'm very keen on war memorials personally, all kinds of memorials, but I'm not convinced that this particular war memorial, which is very fascinating, actually needs a great deal of money spent on it. It certainly doesn't look to me to be in a bad state, and I go past it most days and look at it.
So I can answer the first one straight away. In terms of the War Memorials Trust, it was actually rated good even before, over a decade ago, and they still granted the money. It does seem for this small level expenditure, compared to some of the amounts that they do for larger war memorials, this is more than feasible. However, I would say that it's a unique war memorial for Sandwich. We are Sandwich Town Council, we're there to represent the people of Sandwich. While you may say it's not necessarily looking as damaged as it was over a decade ago, you can't see the names of the fallen. I think that's vital, especially for the gold-plated sections at the bottom, which is one of the bits that need doing. However, so going back a little bit, when I raised this item last year, I noticed damage to the structure itself as well. So the tiles on top, several had fallen off. So it's not just the way it looks on the plaques at the front, it's also the structure of the base. So I'm not going to give away exactly, as we closed it off due to confidential commercial reasons. However, both of these have experience in stonemasonry as well. Whereas before it was sort of primarily the look, it's also the structure. So, yeah. And we don't want it to fall down, for as well.
I just wanted to ask about the grants, because as it says on the Historic England website, it does say that this memorial is protected, listed by the National Heritage List and maintained by Historic England. So I wanted to know why, first of all, why the grants can't be applied for up front when you've got known costs, obviously, and also if we weren't able to get a grant from there, are we able to get a grant from anywhere else? I also noted that apparently under the War Memorials Local Authorities Power 1923 Act, that DDC have an obligation to support repairs to these. I wondered if any application been made to the Dover District Council for support to these. So it's really about grants, if you could just explain, please.
So yes, we looked at different grants. Of course, the main one was the War Memorials Trust, going off exactly what happened over a decade ago with Councillor John Gisby. John Gisby. For almost all of the ones we've looked at, we have to have selected a contractor and it to happen. But yeah, we're going to be applying to absolutely everything possible, so the town doesn't necessarily have to pay too much. In terms of the district, I reached out to them. I cannot remember off the top of my head the officer's name, but they were able to actually guide us in terms of people they've used before. However, this would be a Sandwich Town Council project, so it's up to us to apply to the grants. And I will still be following up with them anyway to see if we can help have any assistance from them. Anything that makes less of a tax burden on people of Sandwich.
Just another question. I'm not clear how you can make a decision between these two.
We're not supposed to.
Okay. But have you got an explanation as to why they're about £1,000 apart?
So I can't go into exact detail. Essentially, I received quotations from both of them outlining the costs of various materials. Part of it, I believe, is due to, well, so some of the ones which we're talking were tens of thousands of pounds, which it was not appropriate. Actually included a lot of travel costs because they came from further afield. So as I mentioned in the report, what was it? The specialists required to do this work are few and far between. I can't explain exactly why there's such a significant gap, but I guess it would depend on qualifications. So in this section I had listed certain qualifications that both held. So the one that is slightly cheaper, again without going into personally identifiable detail, primarily focuses on, what's the word? Slightly less on the stonemasonry side, has certain qualifications which are more relevant to the plaque side. However, the latter one has more qualifications with the stonemasonry side. So as it currently stands, if council was to agree to expand this budget, we would probably go for the first option, just because they've got a lot more experience in terms of the stonemasonry, and it's the structure I'm quite worried about.
Yes, I'm in agreement with expanding our expenditure. Do I take it that the strategy then is for us to fork out, but that then there'll be a lot of grants available, lots of effort will be made, and we may well get a lot of that back?
I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
I think that's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, so the reason of having the budget is, while that's probably the most likely course of action, is just to make sure we can cover it if that is definitely going to happen, but we'll be applying as soon as we've got the contract and we've got the date. So we may potentially not have to fork it out immediately, or even at all.
Yeah, okay.
But of course report back to council about how that goes.
I'd like to propose it or
Propose
second
that,
it,
do we
whichever
have a
one.
second? Yeah, we're in favour of it, that we do that. Okay, thank you. Item 20. Making council and committee meetings accessible. I received a report from Councillor Anderson with respect to accessing council meetings. Attachment 15.
Yes, thank you. I lay out the territory in this report. It has become increasingly, or it is necessary, very often now to access this council chamber for our meetings, for this council and for committees, not via the main staircase, but via the side door and this staircase here. If we come through up the main staircase or using the lift, then it entails walking through the jury room to get to this council chamber. Now that means that when the jury room is let, which as it is this evening, and as it is frequently, it entails, it's absolutely imperative to come up these stairs here, because we don't want to interrupt whatever's going on in the jury room in order to reach the council chamber. And unfortunately, using these stairs here, as I know from personal experience, is challenging, particularly for people with mobility issues, and it means that we cannot conform to our own standing orders, and we cannot comply with the requirements of the Equality Act 2010. Our own standing orders, 3L, say that public involvement is central in the promotion of democratic government. Access to meetings is a right for all members of our community, both in terms of physical access to the meeting itself and wider accessibility of council proceedings. And the Equality Act 2010 lays down an equality duty to which all local authorities, including parish and town councils, must conform, which promotes, the equality duty promotes equality for people with protected characteristics, one of which is disability. So rendering council and committee meetings inaccessible, which is what happens when you have to come up these side stairs, when there are alternative meeting rooms available which would be accessible, contravenes the equality duty, in other words, is illegal. So I've suggested there are two kinds of solution. The first is that we simply say to all hirers of the Guildhall that the jury room is not available between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m. But as I point out in my report, this would lead to a loss of income for the Guildhall. Or the second solution is that the council and its committees can meet in a room in the 1970s part of the Guildhall when the jury room is occupied. The gallery would seem to be the most appropriate of these rooms, and indeed in discussion with Guildhall officers, they've said to me that the gallery is less used than the jury room in the evening. So what I'm recommending is that the council and its committees, in order to conform with its own standing orders and with statute, be flexible and meet in an accessible room when the jury room is occupied, and the preferred alternative room is the gallery. But secondly, that in order to put that recommendation into practice efficiently, the dates of council and committees should be established on a rolling basis for a calendar year ahead, so that one can run a proper timetable for hirers and for ourselves. And it would mean that we would know well in advance how we will access council meetings of all kinds.
Yeah, I've had a word with the finance of it, and she said we should have a discussion with the hirers, because it means that if the jury room is hired every Monday night, we never ever have a meeting in here again. And we did spend a lot of money making this wheelchair. We've had councillors coming here in wheelchairs. We even put a disabled toilet in there years ago, which cost a lot of money to put that toilet in. We never had a toilet up here. The toilet was downstairs where the Mayor and Mayoress's toilet, where the museum is now. And I think if we can talk to the hirers and ask if we can have a period to say 10 to the hour on the hour, so the councillors that need to come in at 10 to 7 could come through the jury room, and then we still use this room, because otherwise we're never going to use this room again. And also we have the loop system in here. There is no loop, haven't got it tonight because we've got caretakers having to set it up. There's no loop system in the gallery, and I think we should just concentrate on this and have a word with the hirers to see whether they agree that access can still be allowed through the jury room before we make a decision on this.
That does seem very sensible, but I would also point out that the committees are now meeting in here as well.
Yeah.
And of course they meet on other evenings, other than, well, apart from Heritage and Townscape, which will be meeting on Mondays. But Planning Committee, for example, meets...
But I think a lot of them people don't need to have a disabled access, do they?
Well, the public have a right to, and indeed we're breaking the law by not being accessible.
No, but I'm just saying, if we have a word with the hirers first and ask if they would allow disabled people, with people that need disabled access, I think we should do that first before we make a decision on this to say we're not going to use this anymore, we'll move into the gallery. That's basically what you're saying.
No, I'm saying we should be flexible.
Go on, what does anyone else think?
I mean, we are breaking the law at the moment, and we're breaking our own standing orders.
Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It has always been the case in the past, before we changed standard orders, that committees especially were held in any available room, should it not be accessible in here. I did make that suggestion before, that when we were discussing this, that we make some arrangements that we are flexible with the space that we can use. That was ultimately voted against. But I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that we should try and keep council meetings in the council chamber. But we can be flexible with committee meetings. Absolutely.
We used to use the meeting room downstairs, didn't we, for the finance meeting?
Jury room,
and the jury room.
main hall.
Yeah, but I think the council meeting should be in this too. So, Councillor Heaven?
If we're all agreed to be flexible, in what way is Councillor Anderson's proposal not being met by us all being flexible about where we meet?
Well, we're asking the hirers to be flexible to allow people access through on the Monday evening on the council meetings. That's the
Yes,
flexible.
whereas
And the rest we can use
Councillor
other rooms for the committee meetings.
Councillor Anderson doesn't disagree with that.
No, I don't. No,
No.
I think that's, I mean, it could be a way forward,
Yeah.
but, I mean, we need a plan B as well. But let's see what they say.
Yeah.
But also, if committees can meet, not in this room, but anywhere else,
Mm.
I mean, it makes life very complicated. But I do think also we ought to have council and committee meetings on a rolling basis a year ahead, because that makes life a great deal simpler for everybody.
Well, I think there's a problem with that because generally committees are decided after mayor making, aren't they? And the dates are decided at mayor making. You don't decide this council will be up for election in May, we might not be here. Yeah, in
Yes,
June.
but that doesn't change the.
Well, it will change some of the meetings, I should think, some of the committee meetings. Yeah, anyway, Councillor Friend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, in order to move this forward a little bit then, can we defer the decision about council meetings till pending the discussion with the hirers and move forward with making committee meetings more flexible with other rooms depending on the letting of the jury room?
Yes, well, I propose that, Councillor. Got a second reading?
Just very quickly, which rooms, just for information for all councillors, have the loop system installed?
Jury room, main hall and this
Main
one.
hall. Cool, because obviously we are making it more accessible
Yeah.
in some ways, but in other ways, if we're having a meeting in a room that doesn't have the loop system, we're making it inaccessible for maybe those with hearing issues. We've got to bear that in mind.
But the committees are smaller meetings, aren't they? I don't know. Perhaps we'll have to put a loop system in the if it's councillor for.
Sorry, I'm slightly confused. Are you suggesting that if meetings are held in this room, that people who access this room through the jury room, that if that room is in use, they can be allowed to come through when it's in use?
Oh no, we're going to ask the hirer if she will allow us to stop her gymnastics club or dance club, it is, for 10 minutes to allow people that needed to come through.
The trouble is we don't know when the meetings end.
No, but end.
End's okay,
I think the end's okay. I don't think those little girls are up to 9 o'clock.
The planning committee, for example, maybe lasts an hour.
Well, they won't be here, will they? They'll be in another room.
Okay. So I think the principle should be that meeting room should be accessible, and if it's not in this room, then it should be in another room to make it
It
accessible.
might be downstairs in the hub. You know, the little room downstairs at the bottom. Okay, so
What are we agreeing?
we're agreeing, Councillor Friend, that we have a word with the hirer of the jury rooms to see if we allow us access through at 10 to the hour, and then the other meetings will be held in whatever rooms are available, committee meetings, if necessary, if there's a hires on in the jury room.
I'd just like to second Councillor Friend's proposal until anything further comes up.
Yeah.
I just want to add that we do have extraordinary council meetings, which could be on any evening.
Might be on any evening, yeah.
So how do we handle that?
Well, we'll come to that when we have one. We'll do it. Are we going to agree to this? We can go around this all night otherwise, Councillor.
I was just going to say that extraordinary meetings don't matter, because if you're disabled you could come up in the lift and walk through is it the jury room?
Jury room.
Yeah, so it won't make any difference, will it? As long as it's not on a Monday.
If the jury room is high.
Oh, no, yeah, if it's hired, it's the same problem.
Anyway, so we've got a proposition, we've got a seconder. All in favour that we deal this? Okay, thank you. Right, 21. Land south of Whitefriars Meadow. To receive a proposal from Councillor Carter to consider this parcel of land. Attachment 16.
That's good. Yeah, as has been reported by Councillor Friend tonight, The planning on the land south of Whitefriars Meadow was refused for the 3 barn-like units, you know, were out of keeping with the area there. This sort of brings home to Sandwich Town Council the issue, which is why it's urgent to bring it onto this agenda, of what happens next, basically. So I've got down here what I think Sandwich Town Council needs to do is, 1, establish what the developer is planning to do now his planning permission has been refused. 2, do Sandwich Town Council wish to acquire it, and have we got the funding to acquire it? 3, how we would fund any acquisition of the land. 4, what uses could the land be put to, because we perhaps don't want to just buy a piece of land that's just going to completely get overgrown again and become a complete and utter mess. And 5, I was going to put myself forward. I'm quite happy to assist with any of this, including approaching the developer or looking at any of the options that are brought forward, if it helps the Guildhall staff to try and move this forward. So really this is a open discussion for Sandwich Town councillors to decide, but we all know it's a major issue for residents, and we're at that crossroads now. Do we act and do something about this, or do we leave it until the next developer comes along and puts in the next planning application? And I think there's been about 4, isn't there, over the years?
Over the years,
Yeah, about 4. Thank you. I'll leave it open to councillors.
Councillor Gray.
So Fellowship Walk, you may recall the site was cleared in September 2020, and at that time there was outrage about the destruction of wildlife and trees and so on. And I think various councillors, certainly Councillor Friend, Councillor Lintott, myself, I think, all had a Councillor Carter
pictures on my iPad if anybody
had some dialogue with the owner at the time.
Yeah.
But I think no one has actually spoken to him about what he wants. So I think now, as Councillor Carter says, the time is now ripe for just to open a negotiation with him, perhaps to see what does he want. If he's never going to get planning permission on that site, who knows? Then the site is worth not very much. So you know, perhaps the funds are there, but we need to have a dialogue before we can do anything else.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I entirely agree, and I'm very pleased that Councillor Carter has brought this up. I do think the first thing has to be that we talk as a council to the landowner about his plans and when he's going to put in another application. I have today drawn up the agenda for the Heritage and Townscape Committee meeting on, I can't remember quite when it is, but it's February the 20th. And I've put this on the agenda for that meeting and suggested that that committee consider what kinds of uses we might want to see on that land for community purposes. And I suggest, given the long agenda that we've got here, that we ask the Heritage and Townscape Committee to discuss what community purposes that land might be used for. And then when we come to consider what the owner of the land is saying he wants, I mean, if he says £1 million, it's very unlikely that we'll have community purposes which are worth, in some sense, £1 million. But if he says 10,000, then we're on, as it were. So I think the Heritage and Townscape Committee should talk about what community purposes it could be used for and recommend to the council. And the council, under the aegis of Councillor Carter, should start talking to the owner of the land and see what he's got in mind.
Thank you. Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of the application getting turned down, I don't think it was a surprise to many of us that it did get turned down. It's designated in the new local plan and the Regulation 19 submission that it's protected open space adjacent to a schedule. I don't think it's called Schedule H monument anymore, it's different terminology. But the likelihood of planning ever being granted on that site is slim to none. So that does put us us an advantage in terms of negotiating. Maybe the temporary clerk can confirm, I'm sure I know the answer, but does Sandwich Town Council have the power to CPO? So that's worth exploring as well.
Councillor Brown.
What's CPO?
Yes, Mr Mayor. At the time of the clearance, I did have conversations with both the father and the son of the business.
Yeah.
I would really suggest you just talk to the father.
Yeah.
When you talk to the son, you'll learn some new words.
I did.
And I do have the father's telephone number.
That's very kind of you, thank you.
That's what I did, Councillor Graham. Perhaps I should open the debate with the father. Councillor
Oh
Carter.
yes, so if I come back, Mr Mayor, it seems to be very favourable that everybody would like to see something go ahead. So if this council was so minded, I have got the actually son of the developer's phone number details and several photographs of him on my iPad. So because MJ Holloway and myself were there at the time and was trying to stop excavators going onto the land. So, but if Councillor Graham could give me the contact details for the father, then if this council was so disposed, I could open a negotiation with him and just find out basically what he plans to do with the land without suggesting anything else. If we don't make any forward movement on this and just ask what's happening, then we will never know until the next planning application comes up in another 3 or 4 years and we have to go through this all over again. So, but we need that first initial move to do that. Obviously I can't do that without authority from the council.
We have a second with the councillor. Yeah, all in favour that Councillor Carter? That's an issue. Lovely, okay. I lost my drift now because the thing didn't type out. Yeah, we're on 22 Monk's Wall. We need members of the subcommittee of Fellow Council and Voting Rights. I think the Monk's Wall had a committee, didn't it, Councillor Graham? Councillor Graham? The Monk's Wall has a committee, doesn't it? It just hasn't met for quite a while.
No, it doesn't have a committee. It's disbanded.
Yeah, it was disbanded, yes, but it had I should say it had a committee.
Oh, many
and we're
years.
going to reform it because it turns out the warden can't manage without the expertise of the Finn's agent for getting the grants and everything. So the idea is that we reform the Monk's Wall nature.
Yes, I chaired it for around 5 or 6 years, I think.
Yeah, that's right. So the idea is to help Ken Chapman, isn't it, the warden? Because there was a big project supposed to be taken. Do you remember? Was it £57,000?
Yes, to dig a
New
scrape.
scrape.
Yeah.
Yes, and we don't know what's happened with it. So
I think he's got all the costings and he's been digging through Mark Chandler.
yeah.
It's well on its way, but I think he's got beyond his expertise now.
That's right. Yeah, I had a word with Mark, and he's happy to reform the committee, and I think it does need the committee reforming to move it on as we did before. So it's been going back 30 years now, I think, the Monk's Wall, isn't it? So I'd like to propose that we reform it and we set the committee up similar to what we had before, with the mayor chairing it, or a chairman is nominated, but and then we have the 5 councillors now. Yeah, the membership is the 5 councillors with voting rights, and there was up to 4 cooperatives, because there was Andrew Lipinski, wasn't he? There for a year, long time. Someone from the Bird Observatory.
Sue Hunt, I think her name is.
She left them, didn't she?
I think she did.
Yeah, she
So I think we got down to 3 in the end.
yeah.
Yeah, so if the councillors would like to be nominated for this committee, and then we work out the cooperatives, then we can have a meeting. So if you're happy with that.
Yeah.
So.
I'd like to second your proposal, Mr Mayor, but I believe the meeting's a daytime meeting, so I couldn't put myself forward for that.
No, the generally evening meeting.
No, it's always an evening meeting.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, then well, I'll put myself forward if it's an evening meeting.
Yeah. So Councillor Carter, Councillor Heaven?
Of course, the councillors would only put themselves forward if they knew they would be here after May. Which is, well, technically, I know I'm not,
No.
but
We can't tell, can we? It depends on the electorate, Councillor Heaven. I might
Yeah,
not be here
exactly.
after May, but I'll put my
so
name
it may
forward.
be difficult to narrow down enough people.
But I think we want meetings before May, Councillor, that's the
Well,
point.
yeah.
We need, Councillor Friend.
Yeah, I think in the short term, I think we need to get this committee back up and running. It's
Yeah.
been out of action for so long now.
Yeah.
You know, get the list of the previous committee members.
Yeah.
If they're still councillors, put them back on it
Yeah.
and fill the gaps.
Yeah. Okay, happy with that? We'll vote on that then, I think. Okay, thank you. This schedule of dates, I've lost me notes. I think we'd like to get back to how it was 3 years ago before we cocked it all up basically, because COVID kicked in and we was having Zoom meetings and we had a deputy mayor as a district councillor and he said don't have the August meetings, and I think we really do need because September was massive, wasn't it? Really massive. And I know there's a bank holiday in August where we normally have it at the end, but I'd like to suggest we have it on the 3rd Monday of August. And therefore, the quarterly meetings, the first quarterly meeting is mayor making. The second quarterly meeting will be August, the 8th month. The third quarterly will be the 11th month, wouldn't it? And the fourth will be February. So like the next month's meeting will be a quarterly, not the March. If you're with me?
Mm.
I mean, you might decide in the future to do away with quarterly meetings, but I'd like to keep them going. So that's the only thing I'd like to suggest. Just go back to change it. So next month will be a quarterly meeting.
Oh yes, so Mr. Mayor, yeah, I'm quite happy to propose these meetings going ahead. There was just one amendment was to do with the I think it was in March. I think it was. You've got the Town Council and Tollbridge Fund meeting on the 27th of March.
Yeah.
But you've got the Finance and General Purposes meeting 2 days afterwards, which I don't think that would work out because obviously we couldn't make any decisions on any financial or contractual matters that were raised. So I was proposing, could it be moved to the 14th of March? So that gives plenty of time for the Finance and General Purposes Committee minutes to be actually produced and then published so that they'd be ready. Yeah, well, it's got to be. So just that amendment in order for the finance minutes could be. I don't know if that's enough time. Is it enough time? Or if not, the Monday the 20th, Mr. Mayor, 20th of March for finance and general purposes. Oh, it's heritage. No, you're right, it's not. No, nothing, no.
So when would you like to change it to then?
The 20th of March would be adequate, Mr. Mayor. 20th of March for finance and general purposes, and then the recommendations from that committee could be taken forward to the 27th to the council meeting. If that's
regarding the scheduled meetings, pre-2014 they were fortnightly, and we always had meetings in August, one meeting in August.
Yeah.
I propose that we, regarding the scheduled meetings, that we go from mayoral year rather than calendar year.
Yeah.
Make more sense.
Like we used to. Yeah. Yeah, because then there's a pair after the mayor has, and especially with an election coming up. So we're all in favour. Then we go back to the original civic year with the quarterly meetings, and later. the finance of general purposes. You're happy with that? I think that goes in second. I think you're happy. Oh,
Thank you.
you abstaining? You're against?
Oh, sorry. I'm happy with it, but I don't really see what's the difference between quarterly meetings and normal meetings. We just have one meeting every month.
Quarterly? You
Yeah,
vote,
I know it's when we dress up, but
yeah.
why?
Well,
are
I said
you
in
asking
future,
us?
after May, you might want to change it all. Leave it to the
When
new
I'm there.
councillors. Leave it to the new councillors. I'm all for it myself, but that's
okay.
what I'm saying. If you go for the civic year rather than a calendar year,
Yeah.
it's up to the mayor of the
But we
town.
call them quarterly meetings, but they're no different from any other meeting, are they? Apart from we put a cloak on.
I think the answer to that is that we have to have by statute
I think
4 meetings a year.
I think that's right.
So we nominated the quarterly meetings as the statutory meetings we
Yeah.
have to have,
Yeah.
and the rest we choose to have in other months.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham.
Yeah.
So, Diggers?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see us agree a schedule of meetings in December every year for the year ahead. I think
No.
we need to look at the calendar year, otherwise how can we book holidays, or if we don't know the schedule of meeting until May, it's impossible to book holidays, or what about people with children?
Well, you know the council meetings on the 3rd or the last Monday of the month. And the planning meeting will always be the same week of the month. The other meetings will always more or less be the same month, weeks of the month. Councillor Friend?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't think there's much difference between booking 12 months worth of meetings from May as it is from January. It just
Yeah.
lines up with the civic year and with the election cycle every 4 years.
Yeah.
So it makes much more sense to return back to that.
Yeah. Thank you. So anyway, we're voting for that we go back to the original, aren't we? The change. I think it was all in favour of that, wasn't it? But it was against it, wasn't it? That's a great. Okay, I think it was passed. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is it. Okay. Item 24. Public Conveniences Working Group to approve membership of the Key Public Convenience Working Group, attachment 19. Councillor Sampson.
Says it right there. So yeah, I kind of jumped the gun when we were talking about changing places. So I'm not going to go into all the stuff I've written down, but essentially at the Heritage and Townscape Committee meeting we had earlier this month, the key conveniences were discussed, actually along with the market toilets and toilets in general, in terms of use within the town for the public, for tourists, residents, visitors, etc. And we've talked about changing places. The idea of this working group, again, I kind of disagree with it. I generally don't like working groups, and I was quite annoyed I didn't get to call it the Sandwich Heritage Interested in Toilets Group. But the Key Public Conveniences Working Group works fine. Councillor Marie spoke about his interest in assisting with this. While I've made initial inquiries, just in my capacity as a councillor, I plan on reaching out to the local organisations that are around that area, local businesses around that area. In fact, this Wednesday, attending the tourism meeting to try and speak to local businesses. And the idea is to come back to council with proposals, options, as soon as possible. Obviously, we've chosen to defer so we can find out more information, which obviously is a good idea, about the changing places, but of course then affect the result of what this would be. Ideally, I'd like to obviously do this sooner rather than later. Yeah, so that's the current plan. If everybody's happy, I'll just proceed and get on with it.
I was just going to propose the acceptance of that and wish Councillor Sampson good luck with trying to improve what we need in the town for tourism. So good luck and well done.
Yes, I was just wondering if you would like more members, because I should remind you that the terms of reference of working groups say that if you're talking to outside bodies, you need to be quorate. In the working group terms of reference, when a working group has only 2 members, both members have to be present. And that's a problem if you've only got 2 members.
If council prefer, I'll just do it myself and we don't have to have a working group. so I can return in future meetings. Just to make it as quick and simple and easy as possible.
Yeah.
I'd second that proposal, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, if you want to lead it, I think it's a brilliant idea. Yeah. As the council agrees to it.
Is Councillor Sampson in lieu of Councillor Marie?
Don't get
And you will be reporting in the first case?
Yes,
the
to the
first case
committee.
for heritage and townscape, and then heritage and townscape.
Councillor Silver.
I was just going to say, will that be okay with Councillor Marie? I wouldn't like him to think that we've chucked him off the working group. So.
If I can. Yeah, I think he'll be fine with it. Councillor Marie is obviously heavily involved with a lot of local events around town. And of course he has difficult working hours in his employment. So yeah, if this makes it easier for council and it's more in line with terms of reference, I'm happy to proceed on that basis. Of course, I'll keep council informed as I will about other things we've discussed tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, I think I've got to propose that Councillor Santa is going to be the lead on this. Okay, we're all in favour of that? Yeah, well done, thank you for volunteering. Okay. Item 25. Tourism Information Working Group to receive and note the minutes from the meeting held on 9th of January, together with a verbal update from Councillor Wiles, attachment 20. Councillor Wiles?
Yeah, so the notes of the meeting on the 9th of January are attached. They're self-explanatory. We've had 2 meetings so far. We have another meeting on Wednesday this week in the gallery, 6 o'clock. Anyone is welcome to attend. The last meeting we had about 23 people. Very useful discussion. But this week we've got Councillor Sampson, I think, might be coming to talk about the toilets. We've got Richard Harris representing the Chamber of Commerce. He's going to come along and talk about their work on tourism. And there's various other items on the agenda, so it's a fairly constructive discussion, hopefully.
Okay.
I'll answer any questions.
Where's the gallery?
The gallery is next to the main hall, the Delphi.
Okay. So, do you have a proposal? Let me note these in the second
Note that report. Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
all in favour? Okay, thank you. Item 26. Sandwich Waterways Working Group to receive a report and verbal update from Councillor Heaven, attachment 21.
Yes, a video film, of course, is available of that meeting, and this is a brief report on the minutes as to what happened. It was actually very fruitful. Although there were some absences, there were 6 members of the public who turned up, and they joined in, and their contribution was extremely significant. I think it confirmed the concern there is in the town about the state of the waterways, the weed, the stagnant water, the mosquitoes and so on. Lots of ideas were chucked around about how this came about, what could be done about it. One decision would be to take up the offer of a meeting, a site meeting, with the Environment Agency and the Internal Drainage Board, who are both undertaking a lot of work on the Delph system, particularly to improve flow, and we've had a brief mention of all the work at the brewery sluice end that is now resuming, and Councillor Friend recently did a useful update on that work. Well, there is a meeting for anyone who wants to attend on the site with the Environment Agency and the Internal Drainage Board representatives on the 16th of February, Thursday at 10:30 a.m. in the morning. All welcome. And I say that because both Environment Agency and IDB emphasised that they want public participation. And it will be on site at a point on the Delph where some new initiative and new work is due to be tried out. And they describe that as upstream on the Delph, upstream from the railway line, which I take to mean out of town, over the railway line from town, and then just there, because they describe it as a...
It's downhill though, isn't it? Upstream, it's got to be the way it's flowing, so
Yeah.
it's flowing down New Street.
Yes, but it's
Yeah,
flowing
it comes
from
from Worth,
up
though, councillor.
Worth.
Yeah, I know it comes from where, Mr Mayor, but if they say upstream, surely it's upstream as it flows?
No,
No? Okay.
it's where it comes from. And at that point, there's residence gardens on one side and the public highway on the other. So what do they do about silt? So that will take place, as I say, all welcome, 16th of February, 10:30, and then that will be followed by a meeting of the working group to be announced.
That's very interesting, but I do think you have to be clearer about exactly where this meeting is going to take place. There is a recording happening, you need to put it on social media, and you need to say where that meeting is going to take place, please. Because I have not the faintest idea from what you've just said. The railway line is a long line as it goes through Sandwich.
Sorry,
So please be more specific.
The railway line on New Street, Deal Road, at the Deal Road side.
Dover Road.
Dover Road.
Please be more specific, just pin it down.
That
Give
is
reference,
that is
something
pinned down.
more.
Where the bus
Three
stop is,
words.
don't you? That,
You mean
that bit,
opposite St Bart's Road?
Yes, opposite St Bart's. There we go.
Councillor Frank.
Yeah, I think it is. Just to expand on what Councillor Heavens put, the Environment Agency and the IDB are currently desilting on the North Stream, which is one of the initiatives to try and get the water flowing again. In previous years, Councillor Graham will know, Councillor Bragg was on the Del Stream Working Group before for a number of years. There was talk about culverting the part of the North Stream as it comes into Sandwich. The farmer, Mr Bean, was going to buy some pumps that would greatly increase the flow. Network Rail have done a lot of work on the culverting underneath the New Street crossing. The penstock's been repaired at the Malcolm Way end of the Rope Walk waterways. The brewery sluice is being done. The desilting's taken place on the Rope Walk end. The railway work has been done on the Woodmansborough Road end. The bridge work is out for tender, and the engineering works in consultation with Heritage England for the butts replacement. And then the desilting work will take place after that. And then we'll be a little bit further along to getting the situation resolved. But it's an incredibly complex issue with lots and lots of moving parts.
Thank you for that. We could have done with that before we had the meeting.
Councillor, please. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Heaven. It's all moving ahead lovely. Number 27. This Rennes, as you know, it's one of our twin towns, and it's the Twinning Association has sort of faded away over the years. I think the only thing that keeps it going, twinning, I think, is the Rotary, with their contact. But I was being contacted by a mayor just pre-COVID, but of course COVID mucked it all up, and then been contacted again by a representative of the mayor, and plus this new chappie with this new initiative. So I'd just like to know that the town, the council, be happy if I go ahead with, getting the Rennes Twinning Association going again, and and have a public meeting and see what support we get within the town, because I think I'm going once in. Well, I was actually in Tournai the weekend, so I was only 10 miles from Ronce as it was. But and I think I did meet the mayor actually at the Bell Hotel a couple of months ago. He come over. So anyway, Councillor.
Yeah, I was, as I think I told you, I was previously on the Ronce Twinning Committee, and it's a lovely town, and people are so welcoming and helpful. It's a fantastic thing. And in fact, Ronce was actually the original Twinning Town. It was the oldest
This one.
before Honfleur or Sonsbeck.
Yeah.
So it was the oldest one that we actually had, and I don't think they're still in there. But I brought back like a trophy type thing from once when they were celebrating like 40 years, so which was some time ago. So I'd quite happily propose that you take that forward and
have a public meeting.
to have a public meeting, see what interest you get. Yeah, and I'd be happy to join you for that meeting, if that's okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's the second Councillor Carter proposition, and just to remind you, there's about £300 sitting in the Mayor's Fund, which was what was left over when the last association was made. Just for you to keep that in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. But actually, I was looking downstairs and they actually sorted out some of the sandwich rods Renee Twin Association ties. Anyway, so if you're all happy for me to go ahead with this, I shall have a meeting. I shall contact Renee. And so, you all in favour of that? Lovely. So we can breathe life into it. Lovely, thank you. Item 28, date of next full council meeting, 27th of February 2020 at 7 o'clock within the Guild Hall. Thank you.